As you heard earlier, Toronto has a rat problem, and it's getting worse. A new study is ranking our city as the third most rat infested in the world, even ahead of New York, which, by the way, has a rat czar. Warmer winters, not this year, but of course, we've got booming construction. We usually have lots of that. Urban growth are all fueling this explosion. And if things don't change, the problem could spiral even further out of control. So what's behind the surge in rodent activity? How does climate change and the city development play a role? And most importantly, what can be done to stop this? Joining me right now is Dr. Alice Sinia. She's an entomologist and pest specialist at Orkin Canada with over 20 years of experience in pest management. She's here to help us understand why rats are thriving and what is Toronto doing wrong and what solutions we could be looking at. Dr. Sinia, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. Good morning, and thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. So talk to us a little bit about how bad is the rat problem here in Toronto?
You know, it's really getting bad. Over the last years, we have seen steady increase in rat activity just based on the internal service control and pest control calls we get within Orkin Canada. So it's really steadily getting really bad. And every year, it's our internal ranking shows that Toronto is the rattiest city in Canada, actually.
Oh, that's not a ranking that I want to win. It really is not.
Me too.
My goodness. So talk to us a little bit about why. Is it just construction? Is it the climate's too warm outside of this year, of course? Like, why is this happening to our city?
Actually, you know, it's a combination of different factors. So the first thing is we have to look at the population of Toronto. Toronto is the most populous city in the whole of Canada. So, and the population has been growing steadily. I think right now we are around, close to over 3 million? I'm not sure. But whenever you have this rapid urbanization and population increase, there is also increase in garbage generation and waste. And because of that, there's resources for rats because rats and resources go hand in hand. So whenever there's resources, that means there's food to sustain the population, and that really makes the population really go up really, really very rapidly. The second thing, too, is that with the population growth, we need building, we need construction. So, and whenever we have this construction, that means that we're going to disturb these rats from their natural ecosystem, like their natural homes. And when they are disturbed, they have to go somewhere. So that means they'll be forced to go into structures, whether it is homes or it is commercial buildings. And once they're inside, they're more protected, and that means they're able to even reproduce faster, so that really sustains their population, protects them from predation, and it gives them all the shelter they need. And with that, it also sees that population increase. So the construction really goes hand in hand with population growth because people have to have houses to live in, right?
Right.
Yeah. And the other factor, too, is which we often don't discuss frequently is climate change. So climate change is a little bit more trickier because over the years we've seen more mild winter, and for the exception of this year where we have too much snow. So when you have mild winter, that means that more rats actually survive. And when they survive, that means they'll have this very resilient population to start in spring or to continuously reproduce. Because winter is usually more like Mother Nature's way of controlling pests. So when the winters are very harsh, it really kills a good portion of rats or mice. So that means the population is depleted, and then there's not that robust population to start a new population. So with mild winters, we don't see that happening. So it's a benefit to the rat population.
So,
now, and besides that, yeah, sorry?
No, I was about to say, so, I mean, this winter has been super cold. Do you think this winter has been cold enough to kill off a portion of the rat population? Is that going to be a good thing is that going to be the way that I can get through this cold winter, knowing that rats are being killed regularly?
You know what? It will help, but it's not going to see most likely a very big drop maybe in the population because it has to be consecutive, right? Because we're dealing with creatures here that are able to, have behavioral adaptation to be able to survive. So yes, this winter will help to kill a certain portion population, but that may not necessarily translate right away in a drop in rat population. So it has to go hand in hand with other things. And the other thing too is over the years we've seen that our temperatures are really warmer. We have like long falls, and so that means that there's more lengthened foraging period or like breeding season for the rats. So that means they're able to have more babies like longer time, right? So, and that way they'll have many generations in a year. So instead of having maybe a few ones in a year, they can have so many generations. And they tend to really sexual maturity very fast. Like on average, a rat's gestation period, that's from the time of conception to until it gives birth, is about 23 days. That's almost like 3 weeks, right?
God, Jesus.
And a litter can consist of about 6 to 8 or even 10 pups, like babies. So when you have this extended breeding season and foraging and there's food, that means that we're going to have resources supporting this population. So that's one of the reasons why really we're seeing this increase in rat population in Toronto.
So a couple of weeks ago, we spoke with someone about coyotes. And they mentioned that coyotes do eat rats. Are there other animals out there? Are raccoons eating rats? Like, who's helping us in terms of the animal ecosystem to eat these rats and kill them?
You know what? Actually, raccoons and skunks, these are all like omnivores, so they really feed on anything. So yes, they'll actually feed on the rats. And also we have birds, right? Like predatory birds feed on rats. And then, so yes, we do have some wildlife that will feed on the rats. But the question is, would it be enough to actually bring down the population? Maybe not, because as we pointed out, these rats are going inside structures, like if you have a home. So that means you have a predatory bird will not be able to get a rat which is inside the structure, or a raccoon might not go after that, right? So there are so many different layered factors to that. So yes, it will help, but it's not necessarily going to really help to control that population. So maybe in the wild, yes.
But okay, so cities in like Ottawa are considering rat birth control, and Ottawa has remained rat-free for decades. So what strategies should Toronto be adopting to get rid of this rodent problem?
You see, the first thing really is, if you have a problem, you have to understand the problem before you can solve it. So even with the rat population in Toronto, the first thing is for the general people to, first of all, the general population to recognize and say, yes, there's a problem. And what are the signs of this problem? So like the rat, what are the signs of a rat? Then all the different levels, individual responsibilities and collective responsibilities. So that means the city, business owners and homeowners, everybody have to do their part. So the city can come up with maybe, let's say, bylaws which will particularly focus on rodent control, especially in public areas, and maybe even some residents that might need some help. So there has to be something. And the focus should also be on garbage collection, garbage management, because as I pointed at the beginning, rats go hand in hand with food. So over the years, we have so much garbage. And if you walk on the streets of Toronto, you'll see these garbage receptacles on the street. Sometimes you see maybe it's overflowing, or just due to human behavior, you have garbage, and that's really what's sustaining rat population. So there has to be really very good garbage management system, so that will help to really prevent rats from getting access to this ready food, and that will really knock down their population. So that is the first thing. So that could be in terms of how frequent garbage is collected, and also the type of receptacles that's used on the street. So it has to be what we call rodent-proof. It's with lids that the rodents are not able to get into, or even raccoons could come and knock it off, and then food is all over the place and rats come. So there are some initiatives that the city can take just to make sure that garbage is managed properly. Then also we have other social issues like homelessness. So usually when you find these nation homes, like places where homeless people, you always find there's a lot of garbage in those areas. So those are places where you find also rats will strive. So managing all these social issues will really help as part of it. And then also to really, at the individual level, we need to learn how to exclude rodents from going inside. So rats are always going to be part of our ecosystem, right? But when it becomes a problem is when the population goes up. And then when there's that human conflict where they're constantly in contact with, they go inside, they start chewing and spreading disease, that's when we have to be concerned. So we need to build them out, exclude it. So homeowners can, inspect your home regularly, see if there are gaps, because they can enter in any opening which is like a quarter inch wide, right? So you have to look for openings, fill it, fill cracks and crevices in the foundation, in the wall, unscreened vents, at roof level. So just do the due diligence, build them out so they won't come inside.
Wow.
And also to modify the environment, get rid of the food on the property so you don't attract them on the property. And if it's really worse, go for some help. Get a professional pest control.
Of course.
Canada.
Hey, right, of course. Thank you so much for being with us this morning. It's been very insightful and scary all at the same time. Thank you so much.
Okay, you're welcome. It's a pleasure. Bye-bye.
Thank you. That was Dr. Alice Sinia. She's an entomologist and pest specialist at Orkin, Canada. Aren't you so glad that we had that conversation? I'm not. I'm feeling all itchy and creepy crawly right now. It's not making me very happy. Anyways.